He trusted them with his life, his wife, his family. But the people he protected, they were the very same people who would eventually destroy him. Now, let me be clear. This is not a love story. This is a story about survival. Daniel was a simple man, a good man. He worked the kind of long hours that wear you down to the bone. He'd come home tired, his shoulders heavy with the weight of the world, and yet he always found the strength to smile for his family. Every single bill, every single expense was paid by him. Every problem that surfaced, no matter how big or small, was carried on his shoulders. He lived by a simple code, a belief he held deep in his heart. A man's duty was to protect his family, to provide for them, to shield them from the harsh realities of life. He was prepared to do this even if it cost him everything he had, and slowly, quietly, almost without anyone noticing. It did. It all started so subtly you could almost miss it. The first signs of trouble were like a faint crack in a solid wall. His wife, the woman he adored, began to change. Her work nights started getting later and later. Her replies to his texts became shorter, clipped. The warm conversations they once shared were replaced by a cold, unsettling silence that filled the rooms of their home. When Daniel finally gathered the courage to ask what was wrong, if he had done something, the answer was always the same dismissive phrase. "You're just imagining things." He wanted to believe her. He really did. But the feeling in his gut told him otherwise. So he turned to his family, the people he thought he could always count on. Their response only added to his confusion. "She's just stressed out from work," they'd say. "You work too much, Daniel. Maybe you're not giving her enough attention." And the one that stung the most: "Stop being so insecure." The message was clear. The problem wasn't her, it was him. So Daniel did what he always did. He put his own feelings aside. He apologized for pain he didn't cause. He tried harder to be a better husband, a better man, completely unaware that he was just making it easier for them to continue their deception. The betrayal, when it finally came, was swift and brutal. One evening, Daniel came home early from work, hoping to surprise his wife, but the surprise was his. The house was quiet, too quiet. An eerie stillness hung in the air. As he walked into the living room, he saw his own phone sitting on the coffee table. It was unlocked. And just as he looked at it, the screen lit up with a new message notification. He didn't mean to look, but he couldn't help it. The words burned into his memory. "I miss you. I wish he wasn't around." His heart didn't just break. It stopped. The world went silent. It was from his own brother. In that single, sickening moment, everything came crashing down. The late nights, the cold silences, the strange excuses, it all made a horrifying kind of sense. This betrayal wasn't just emotional. It wasn't a simple mistake. It was calculated. It was a conspiracy. As he numbly scrolled through the messages, the full scope of their plan came into focus. His wife, his brother, his entire family knew. They were planning to take the house he'd paid for, drain the savings he had painstakingly built, and take absolutely everything. They planned to leave him with nothing. The people he had dedicated his life to protecting were plotting to erase him from the life he had built for them. When Daniel confronted them, he expected tears, maybe excuses, some sliver of remorse. He got none. There were no apologies. There was no guilt in their eyes. There was only cold, hard cruelty. The masks were off. "You're weak, Daniel," his wife sneered. "You're boring," his brother added, the man he had grown up with. And then, the final, soul-crushing blow from his family. "You deserve this." They stood there, united against him, a pack of wolves who had finally cornered their prey. That night, Daniel didn't sleep in his bed. He didn't even sleep in his house. He slept in his car, parked on a dark, unfamiliar street. The silence in that car was deafening. He stared at his phone, waiting for it to ring, waiting for a text message, any sign that anyone cared. But the phone remained dark. No calls, no messages, no family. He was utterly and completely alone. The man who had given everything he had, who had sacrificed his own happiness for theirs, was now an outcast, left with nothing but the clothes on his back and the crushing weight of their betrayal. The days that followed blurred into a gray, featureless fog. Daniel stopped eating. Food had no taste. He stopped talking. There was nothing left to say. He stopped caring. What was the point? He would just sit in the silence of his car or a lonely park bench, the same question echoing in his mind over and over again. What did I do wrong? He replayed every conversation, every argument, every moment, searching for the mistake he must have made. He tortured himself with self-blame, convinced that he was the one at fault. But the truth, the simple and painful truth, was that he hadn't done anything wrong. His only crime was loving the wrong people more than he loved himself. He had poured all of his worth, all of his energy into people who were incapable of returning it. He had built his entire world around them, and they had just walked away with the rubble. Then, one morning, something shifted. After another sleepless night in his car, Daniel found himself staring into the cracked rearview mirror. He really looked, at the reflection staring back at him. Sunken eyes, a haunted expression, a beard that was matted and unkempt. He didn't recognize the man he saw. This wasn't Daniel, this was a ghost. And in that moment, a flicker of something ancient and powerful ignited within him. A spark of defiance. He spoke the words out loud, his voice raspy from disuse but filled with a newfound resolve. They broke my heart, not my spine. That day in that car, at the lowest point of his life, Daniel made a choice. He chose himself. He chose to live. The rebuilding process was slow, and it was hard. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. He started working harder than ever before, but this time it was different. He wasn't working for a family that didn't appreciate him. He was working for himself. He poured all that pain, all that anger, not into revenge, but into fuel for his own growth. He started going to the gym, channeling his frustration into every lift, every drop of sweat. He started reading books, feeding his mind, expanding his horizons. He embraced discipline like an old friend. There was no time for revenge. No energy wasted on anger. There was only forward momentum. Just growth. Months passed. The change was remarkable. While his former family was busy arguing over the assets they had stolen, bickering over the spoils of their betrayal, Daniel was quietly building a new kingdom. He was promoted at work. His body became stronger, his mind sharper. He was no longer the tired, defeated man they had left behind. He was forged in the fire of his own personal hell, and he had emerged stronger, harder, and more resilient than ever before. He built something they could never touch, something they could never steal, a new version of himself. In the end, Daniel didn't win by getting revenge. He didn't win by destroying them. He won by becoming untouchable. He won by realizing his worth was never tied to their approval. So if you've been betrayed, if you've been abandoned, if you've been broken by the very people you loved and trusted the most, remember Daniel's story. Remember this, loyalty is a rare gift, so be careful who you give it to. Self-respect is not arrogance, it is power. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who are comfortable with hurting you. Your comeback, your new beginning, it starts the very moment you stop begging for a love that was never really yours. Thanks for listening.